Monday night, our third class, with one more to go. So thank you for hanging in there for this. Today we are going to be switching gears from developing growth mindset and us as educators to facilitating growth mindset in your students. I love this picture that's on the slide right now because it just really looks like this little guy is ready to tackle the world, and that's what we want our students to do. We want them to be able to tackle the world, tackle their education, and push themselves farther than they ever thought that they could do. So that will be the focus for today. And at the end of the session too, we're going to do some housekeeping where we're going to talk about the final project, so you'll have all the information you need to start moving forward with that. So with that, I'm going to get off the video chat and just wanted to say hi to all of you, and we'll start with our class today. So let me just stop that. Okay. So to begin today, for our gathering, I found this wonderful book that many of you who teach young kids probably are familiar with, but it's a really nice example of a tool that you can use to start instilling growth mindset in students. So we're going to use this tool for our gathering, because I thought it would be fun to see some work that some students have done. What we're going to see is a stopgap animation that I believe a third or fourth grade class put together as a result of their work on growth mindset. And you can we have this video actually in our Moodle. You can get it off YouTube. But as we're watching this, I want you to just reflect, if you could make a magnificent thing for yourself, something that could solve your problems, what would it be? So we're going to escape from here, and we're going to listen to the most magnificent thing.
The Most Magnificent Thing by Ashley Spires, ripped apart and animated by students at Elmwood.
This is a regular girl and her best friend in the whole wide world. They do all kinds of things together. They race, they eat, they explore, they relax.
She makes things. He unmakes things. One day, the girl has a wonderful idea. She's going to make the most magnificent thing.
She knows just how it will look. She knows just how it will work. All she has to do is make it, and she makes things all the time. Easy peasy.
First, she hires an assistant.
Next, they gather their supplies. They set up somewhere out of the way and get to work. The girl tinkers and hammers and measures, while her assistant pounces and growls and chews.
When she's finished, she steps back to admire her work. She walks around one side. Her assistant examines the other side. It doesn't look right. Her assistant picks it up and gives it a shake. It doesn't feel right either. They are shocked to discover that the thing isn't magnificent. Or good. It isn't even kinda sorta okay. It is all wrong. The girl tosses it aside and gives it another go.
She smooths and wrenches and fiddles as her assistant circles, tugs, and wags. When she is finished, she stands up and takes a long look at it. Her assistant gives it a nudge with his paw. The thing is still wrong. She decides to try again.
The girl saws and glues and adjusts. She stands and examines and stares.
She twists and tweaks and fastens. She fixes and straightens and studies.
She tries all different ways to make it better. She makes it square, she makes it round, she gives it legs, she adds antennae.
She makes it fuzzy. She makes it long, short, rough, smooth, big, small. One even smells of stinky cheese, but none of them are magnificent.
Her hard work attracts a few admirers, but they don't understand. They can't see the magnificent thing that she has in her mind. She gets mad.
The angrier she gets, the faster she works. She smashes pieces into shapes. She jams parts together. She pummels the little bits in. Her hands feel too big to work. Her brain is too full of all the not right things.
If only the thing would just work! The pain starts in her fingers. It rushes up to her brain. And she explodes! It is not her finest moment.
I'm no good at this. I quit. Her assistant suggests a walk.
It's not much help at first, but before long she starts to feel different. Bit by bit, the mad gets pushed out of her head.
As they stroll along, she comes across the first wrong thing she made. The bad feelings are about to start all over again. Then she notices something surprising. There are some parts of the wrong things that are really quite right. The bolts on one, the shape of another, the wheel-to-seat ratio of the next. There are all sorts of parts that she likes.
By the time she reaches the end of the trail, she finally knows how to make the thing magnificent. She gets to work.
This will stop that leak!
This is the perfect thing to ward off bears! She works carefully and slowly, tinkering, hammering, twisting. Her assistant makes sure there are no distractions.
The afternoon fades into evening. Finally, she finishes. She alerts her assistant. The pair take a good long look. It leans a little to the left, and it's a bit heavier than expected. The color could use a bit of work too, but it's just what they wanted. They climb aboard and take it for a spin. They're not disappointed. It is really the most magnificent thing.
Okay. So what I want you to do now is in the text box, if you could type in what your magnificent thing would be for yourself that could help you solve your problems, what would it be? If you type that in the chat box, I'll just tell you a little bit more about this book. The character in this book, that little girl, she's really a capable girl, and she does have a good idea and the skill to make it, but she has to try and try and try again in order to succeed. And she tries in this book over 10 times to build something to get it right. And through hard work and some help from her sidekick, her little pug dog, she eventually gets it. Now, a lot of kids think that if it's not perfect the first time, then they should move on to something that comes more easily to them. Working hard to succeed is what true success is and reflects a growth mindset. And the author and illustrator of this book, her name is Ashley Spires. She reported in an interview that the girl's struggle is really similar to her attempts to become a better illustrator. She reports, "The eraser is my favorite tool because I make so many mistakes. When things don't turn out, my inner critic chimes in. You sit here until it's perfect. But years of experience have taught me that some distance and distraction almost always leads to new ideas and perspective. This is what we want to teach our students to help them grow and achieve." So let's just take a look at what our perfect thing. I would definitely need something to help me have more time, or maybe to help me get things done faster so that I don't have to worry about more time. Artistic drawing glove. A lot of more time. Anti-procrastination machine. That's a one for that I need too. Never-ending patience. Time machine. Time-making machine. That seems to be a theme here. A pause button. A lot of things related to time. It's just a fun way to think about it, and we've incorporated, I think someone has their microphone on because I'm hearing some feedback. So if you have your microphone on, if you want to click the green mic at the top, that'll help mute it. Thank you. So this is just one thing that you could use with your students too, as they're developing a growth mindset, and understanding mistakes and trying over and over again helps our brain to grow. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, ways that we as educators can help kids grow in their learning. So our objectives for today are, first, to understand how growth mindset can support an equitable education for our students in the Anchorage School District. Second, we're going to explore tools to directly teach growth mindset to students. Third, we're going to learn strategies to infuse growth mindset into our instruction. A lot of the things that we're going to talk about are things you probably do, but upon reflection, maybe you can tweak in just a way or change your language in such a way that's going to make it even stronger and powerful for students. And then finally, throughout the session, reflect on how you can enhance student growth by using a growth mindset language yourself. A lot of work we're going to do today and talk about language and incorporating mindset into your instructional practices. So that will be our focus for today. So now let's just reflect on who we are in the Anchorage School District. We are one of the 100 largest public school systems in the nation. We support more than 130 schools and programs. Over 90 languages are spoken. A quarter of the students are transient. 14% of our students are eligible for special education services. And one of the things we're most proud of that we've been talking a lot about in our district is our student diversity. And this stems from a study by the University of Alaska Anchorage researcher that found that we have the most diverse schools in the nation. In fact, we have the top 3 most diverse high schools in the U.S., 6 out of the 10 most diverse middle schools, and 19 elementary schools are in the top 20 nationwide. So our student population provides all of us the ability to interact with people from many different cultures, languages, and learning backgrounds. And this is why it's so important that we really look at growth mindset to help us with the equity in education for our students. So given this diversity, we really want to help all our students grow and achieve. What we're going to do right now is take a moment. We're going to stop and take about 5 minutes to read the article Mindsets and Equitable Education. And if you didn't already download it, if you didn't already download it, you can go right at the bottom here and you can see it's the second article under the files for this week, and you can click on upload and download it, and you can bring it up right now if you haven't already done it. But we're going to read this right now, and what I want you to think about is how growth mindset can really support equity within our education. And we're going to set the timer for 5 minutes, and after you're done reading the article, if you could type in the text box your thoughts of how it can support equity, or if you don't want to type and you want to be a brave soul who would be willing to share verbally, because we have several people that are on with their microphone, you can just raise your hand, and at the end of 5 minutes we'll let a couple people share if they're interested in doing that, just so that people hear a couple voices other than my own. So John is going to my timer, I think, in a second, and we will give you 5 minutes so that you can read the article, and when you're done, go ahead and start typing in the box. Okay. Um, if you can, we're going to get back into Adobe Connect, but we have some people that are entering comments, and if you are willing to share verbally, go ahead and activate your mic and you can share out with us instead of typing it in. Instead of typing it in, you can share with us verbally. So if you know how to activate your mic, go ahead and activate it. Laura Reynolds, if you wanted to do it, I'm not sure if that's why your hand was raised, but if you'd like to take the mic, go ahead and activate yours and you can share out with us. If you aren't finished, that's okay. Go ahead and keep reading for a minute. Is your microphone activated? Do you want to share with us?
I just like that part about Einstein, and that Einstein wasn't always Einstein until he put in many years of passion into his science. I thought that was brilliant.
Bert, would anyone else who has access to a mic like to be able to share how growth mindset can support equity within education? Okay, go ahead, Cameron.
Can you hear me? Are you
Yes,
hearing
we
me?
can.
Oh, I hope so. I thought
Yes, we can hear you.
improvement versus an on the level A. It says after receiving a poor grade on a test, students said that they would consider cheating on the test. So they ran a control group, and then they also took a group and focused on the mindset ideals. What I thought was interesting is so often our students want to get that perfect A, and it doesn't sound like they got the perfect A, but they did show an improvement in their grades. And if I can show an improvement, then that's terrific. But so often kids are always striving for that perfect grade.
Thank you. That is so true, and especially in today's age where we have accountability, test scores, a lot of that going on. We almost have a culture that's reinforcing that fixed mindset that that's what's important. So it's really important to kind of shift that in thinking about that the effort and that making mistakes helps us learn. And really how we're fostering this, and some of you mentioned that the article talks about different stereotype groups of students, how this really helps them achieve and helps us close the achievement gap. I think it's really important that we're talking about this because this is more than just the nuts and bolts of the academics. It's really about having students believe and put forth the effort and challenging themselves and pushing themselves forward with that. Would anyone else like to share using their mic? Please raise your hand and we'll let you share. Go ahead, Galena. Galena, if you click on your microphone again, it'll take the mute off and you'll be able to share. There you go. I hear you.
So I like that message that promotes a growth mindset, and that school is not a place where we judge the people. It's the place where we can help students. We can help students' brain grow, new connections, and I think the whole article is actually living proof. Sorry. It's a living proof that teachers just need to find ways how to help their students grow new connections in the brain and how we can help them succeed. So this is our job.
Thank you, Galena. And if you can keep typing in more responses if you would like. I'm going to minimize this. Let's see if I can figure that out. Do I hit restore, John? Okay. Sorry, you guys, I'm still learning this stuff. Okay, so that kind of sets the context for why we're working on growth mindset with students. And according to the research that you've been hearing about over the last couple of class periods, and it's more than 4 decades of research, students' beliefs about whether effort leads to success, they have dramatic influences on their school success. And in some sense, like we just were talking about, growth mindset runs contrary to the messages that are communicated to students through their grades and through test scores. There's a lot of emphasis on that, which again, remember, really emphasizes that fixed mindset, and that's never going to go away. We're always going to have different grades or tests that we have to pass and stuff. But it's really helping students know that intelligence can be measured beyond and resilient students aren't the ones who think that they have a lot of fixed or innate intelligence. Instead, it's really the most motivated kids are students who believe that their abilities can be developed through their effort and through their learning. So a lot of the information today that I'm going to share is based on lessons learned in a research project on building persistence by changing student mindsets in New York City schools during the 2013-14 school year. And this project asked schools to reshape how they give feedback to students in order to support the development of growth mindsets and really promote this idea of persistence with students. So building growth mindset with students is generally met with success when educators followed this 4-step path to become more aware and more comfortable with growth mindset language. And this is really where it's going to begin and where we want to refine our work. It starts with framing. So framing the concept really consists of teaching a lesson on growth mindset and the research-based evidence that the brain develops through effort. Our brain is malleable and it grows over time. And the difference between fixed and growth mindset. This is where a lot of the lessons that you see online, on Pinterest, on some of the other websites that Dweck has put, is really teaching kids this understanding. It's explicit instruction in these concepts, and it provides valuable foundation on which you can build further, and then they can make connections to what's actually happening in your classroom and building that growth mindset, the language you're using, the strategies you're using to push kids further and challenge them. And now the approaches to teaching this is really going to vary based on the student's age. You know, for some of our little kids, we're going to probably use books and visuals, and the older kids, we could probably use articles and videos. So I'm going to show you next. I think someone has their microphone on. There's a little bit of feedback. So double check. There you go. Thank you. We're going to look at one video that could be used probably more with older children called How We Learn Synapses and Neural Pathways. And it's a video that is an example of how you would explicitly teach the evidence on the brain development and that our brain is changing as we learn. So we're going to play this video, and I just want you to listen to it. We'll do a little bit of polling. We'll do a little quiz afterwards where we use the polling feature to keep you guys engaged. So let's take a minute. This is a 3-minute video that really, and this again is available on the Moodle to help students and adults understand how the brain changes and how we learn.
As for every single one of us, learning something new means rearranging the way her brain works. Our brain has an astonishing 100 billion neurons, or brain cells, all connected together. Learning is about creating and strengthening pathways through these neurons for impulses of electricity. But between each and every connection in our brains, there's a tiny gap called a synapse. For any of us to learn something new, the electrical signal has to jump across this gap to continue its journey. The gap between the two brain cells is tiny, but that doesn't mean it's straightforward for a signal to get from one side to the other. For us, it's like crossing a deep ravine. And getting from one side to the other should tell us something about the way we learn. The first time a signal crosses from one brain cell to the other demands the most effort, and it's the same when we cross our ravine. The first trip across is the hardest. Having crossed the ravine once, the journeys across get easier and easier. And a similar thing happens when we learn something. To start with, learning is difficult. As the signal crosses the gap between the brain cells again and again, we establish a more solid pathway. Sorry about that. By the time we've made the crossing over and over again, it becomes effortless. We can do it whenever we like. We finally learned something.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if I would do that one over and over again because I would be deathly afraid of heights. Sure, if I did practice, I would get better at it too. So as we're looking at that, that's an example, and there's other videos that you could use or lessons that you could do around how our brain does change. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to try doing a poll that just kind of gets some input from you, and I'm going to try pulling this over here. So the first question, when you learn something new, let's make this bigger. Thank you. When you learn something new, what do you do to your brain? A, hurt your brain. B, rearrange how our brain works. C, create new synapses. And D, make new memories. Okay. My brain does hurt sometimes when I'm learning something new, but it could be B or C. We really are rearranging how our brain works as well as creating new synapses. So nice job with that. Okay, we're going to go on to our second quiz question. Number 2. Between every connection is a gap called A, neuron, B, ravine, C, synapse, D, Little wee tiny gap. Nice work. Synapse. Okay, question number 3. Hold on one second. Okay. What part of learning takes the most effort? Writing it down, remembering it, trying it for the first time, trying to focus on the task at hand. Nice. Trying it for the first time is the part of learning that takes the most effort in the learning process. And then one more question for us today to apply what we just saw. What do we do in PE that strengthens this learning process? Play games, get fit, learn about health, practice new skills. Nice job. Practicing new skills. That's something that we do in sports and in PE and a lot of the athletics where we practice over and over until we get good, and that's what we're doing with our brain. The more we practice, the more automatic it becomes. So thank you guys for indulging in that poll and paying attention to the video. So now the first part we just talked about was framing growth mindsets for students. What are they? How our brain changes. As we do that, then we're going to want to, we can put up, have them do readings, watch videos, we can post, create bulletin boards, but that's going to quickly feel artificial to students if they aren't reinforced by regular practice. Therefore, it's really important that we quickly move into giving feedback using growth mindset phrases or language. The use of language that emphasizes effort and development rather than intelligence or being smart. That's what we want to shift towards. So for example, one teacher might ask a student, how much effort did you put in before discussing feedback? Others explicitly focus on mistakes and failure as inevitable, and it's just going to be part of that learning process and that learning cycle. Some teachers might draw attention to language in the form of written feedback, such as, on homework assignments, little post-it notes that provides that feedback. Bottom line is using language is not just effective for the students, but it's also effective for the teachers. And so by really repeating a few key phrases is an easy way for all of us educators to gain comfort in and really increasing students' awareness that there's a difference between the language they previously used and the language of a growth mindset. Then the next part in the path is really, once we've framed it and we've started to provide feedback using language stems, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second, it's important for teachers to quickly find more opportunities to practice. Remember, it's that automaticity we just saw in that video. So a lot of educators find it easier by starting with student strengths. So really focusing on praising for effort, and that becoming more than just words. So you might praise them for their effort, but then really moving on to feedback and areas of improvement. So example of this might be, you got a 60 last time, and I know with some focus and effort, you can get to a 70 on this next assignment. So again, you're focusing on the effort, but also on areas of improvement. So after educators see indicators of student effort, they really typically need to keep repeating this mindset message over and over before students start to internalize it and believe it. So it's not going to just be a 1 or 2 time thing. It just needs to become part of the classroom and hopefully in many cases our school culture. And we need to find opportunities as we're doing this to formatively assess and then provide the feedback on students' efforts. So to be able to give students feedback on learning from their mistakes, for example. So an example of this is one group of teachers asked students to take time when a corrected assignment was returned to write reflections on their mistakes. I know one of my son's teachers, one of her policies is on any quizzes or assignments, they always have the opportunity to redo it for full credit, but they also have to reflect on what they did for their mistakes. And this has been a really powerful thing. At first, my son did not take advantage of it, and when he really understood that there's an opportunity to learn for that, like we just talked about this at parent-teacher conferences, it had a huge impact on him. And it's changing and shifting the way he's thinking about approaching his work, that he has the opportunity to learn from his mistakes. Really powerful strategy this teacher uses to help develop growth mindset in students. And then the last step is focus. Really focusing, thinking about whether you need to focus on strategies or value. So let me talk about this a little bit because there's differences with students. Students who struggle despite effort, they're putting forth a lot of effort, but they're not making that progress, really need strategies. So once a student believes the effort is worthwhile, sometimes they struggle because they just don't know what to do. These might be students who have struggled academically for a while, may have IEPs, and for these students, we need to be ready to offer specific strategies to engage with the material that's going to help them with challenging tasks. So having lessons that they can use to explicitly teach these strategies for persevering in the face of difficult work. I mean, with the Common Core, we're really trying to get all students to be challenged in their work, but it's not, in some cases, going to come just with effort. They're going to need those strategies to help them. So, for example, they might be setting aside time each day to study from their notes, and they might need to learn strategies from studying from their notes. Or engaging with the text. How do they decode words sometimes to activate, to engage, underline important phrases. They might need to be taught strategies for setting goals. You know, reviewing how you did last time and writing how you're going to make progress and so forth. So those are strategies that we're teaching students that will help them make progress. Now, there are also students who avoid struggle and they quietly get by. Now, these students may not need strategy instruction. What they need to do is value school. So in many cases, students who do not engage in that effort part might be described as people as lazy or disengaged from school. And again, these students are going to benefit less from specific strategy instruction and more from a focus on the value of mindset or belief that school has value to them. So really incorporating lessons and opportunities for students to identify, you know, what they care about and value in their learning and articulate how that goes into their future and connect that with their learning. That will be the focus. So really moving from framing the work for students about what mindset is, starting to use feedback and language around growth mindset, finding many opportunities to practice that, and then focusing on possibly the difference between what students need if they're not making that growth. Do they need strategies instruction, or do we need to work on growth mindset values of education? I want to kind of come back to the language we use, because in all the research that I read around developing a growth mindset, I mean, it's great to do our explicit lessons, but it really comes back to the language we use every day with students. Really, in order to deepen our understanding of growth mindset and our students' understanding, we need to speak differently day to day, and many of you are already doing this. But we need to do this before we can really constructively use growth mindset materials in the classroom. We have to develop this. And as you recall, in the last session, I talked a little bit about how growth mindset had a 0.19 effect size from Hattie's meta-analysis. And one of the hypotheses as to why it doesn't have a high effect size is that we were teaching this, but the adults in the kids' lives weren't actually practicing it. They weren't using the language. They weren't modeling it. So we can start that by really paying attention to the language that we're using with students and our own kids in many cases. So there are 4 areas that teachers really can practice their language. The first one is language of high expectations and high confidence. So an example of this is, I've seen you do this before, so I know you can meet my high expectations. Really setting that bar for students and the belief that they can handle that and they can achieve that. The second area of language that teachers use is language that normalizes struggle. So for example, if it's not hard, you're not learning. That's making your brain work. Remember, your brain is a muscle. One teacher transformed the culture of her classroom by taking a bow every time she made a mistake and having her students do the same. So this gesture and phrases don't simply accept the challenge of mistakes and learning from them. They really relish in it, and they create an environment where students are no longer embarrassed to admit when they make a mistake. The third area of language that teachers use are language that extends beyond, extends the time horizon. And so trying to add the word yet to students' negative comments about their own performance. So for example, if a student said, I don't get it, you would respond, you don't get it yet. Now, I saw this mentioned in many of your comments in the discussion board about how you do this with your students and you add, rephrasing for them so that they start using the word yet. In this case, what you're doing is you're reducing the pressure to get the right answer on the first time, and instead allowing students to see that learning continues over a longer time, and that more than just one question or one test, that they're going to continue to connect the dots and build on their learning. And then the fourth area is language that emphasizes process. So for example, walk me through how you did that. These statements are something like, I appreciate how you did that. These statements ask students to explicitly engage in more of that metacognitive reflection that reveals the process underlying their learning. So really, it's practicing and becoming more automatic at this language. Now, in the handouts, what you will see both on the Moodle and in the files for this week, there is, I forget which one it is, it's called Growth Mindset Feedback Tool. It's a PDF from Mindset Works website. And these, what you'll find here are sentence stems or language stems that you can use with students to really start practicing that growth mindset. Picking a couple of them that you practice regularly is going to help build that in your classroom, or if you're a counselor working in a small group of students, or if you're working with adult learners. This really helps build that growth mindset language. So there are sentence stems that you can use when students struggle despite their effort, kind of like we talked about before, where they need more strategy instruction. Sentence stems that you can use when students struggle and need help with those strategies, learning those and understanding those. There's sentence stems you can use when students are making progress and when they succeed with strong effort. And then sometimes what you can say when they succeed easily without effort. So all of these would be a tool that you could use to help you start changing the language that you're using. Now, with that said, let me go to the last point here. Oops, it's not working. Okay, there we go. Language teachers should try and avoid, and people who are working with kids, are words like smart or perfect. And by avoiding this, you really are not reinforcing the notion that intelligence is a fixed characteristic trait or perfection. And avoiding the phrase, that's good, kind of draws attention away from the process and how you get to the answer or how you learn something to whether it's right or wrong. So many, if instead of saying that's good, might substitute you're working very hard on that. So this language is a really good place where you can start even if you don't have lessons, because that's helping build that culture within your classroom and within your school. What we're going to do is I have two examples of this, one for little kids and one for older students and people who work with high school kids and stuff. So we're going to now look at a fun little Sesame Street video called The Power of Yet, and this would be a fun one to share with your little kids. I hadn't seen this one because my kids are older, so I haven't seen Sesame Street in a while, but this was a fun one to see.
Wah, wah, wah. Oh, how does it go?
These no look right.
Oh, we'll never get this.
You missed the drum.
No. There. 2 plus 2. Oh boy. Emma will never get it right.
You tried to add, but the numbers came out wrong. You tried to sing, but you didn't know the whole song. You tried to cook, but the food, it didn't taste right. You tried to dunk, but you didn't get enough hype. You didn't do it right now, but keep trying, you learn how. You just didn't get it yet, but you'll get it soon, I bet. That's the power of a yet. Yet. That's the power of a yet. Yet. Power of a yet. Come on. You tried to ride, but you couldn't make the letter R. You tried to jump, but you didn't make it very far. You tried to drum, but you couldn't find a downbeat. You tried to dance, but you tripped on your own feet. Just breathe, don't lose control. Keep trying and you reach your goal. You just didn't get it yet, but you'll make it soon, I bet. That's the power of a yet. Yet. That's the power of a yet. Yet. Ready, get set with the power of a yet. Break it down now. There's no mountain you can climb. It just takes a little time. 'Cause you got what it takes just to learn from your mistakes. Try again, and one day you'll step up and then you try to add and you get the right answer. You sing the song and you be a great dancer. You dunk the ball and you make the right letter. Everything you do it better. This is what you get. 'Cause this is what you get. 'Cause this is what you get. With the power of a yet. Yet. That's the power of a yet. Yet. And that is what you get. And that is what you get. Woo! And that is what you get. With the power of a yet.
My skin is a dark chestnut horse.
Little music and get us refocused and stuff. So you showed this to your 5th and 6th graders last week. I love that. I bet they had fun. So it doesn't just have to be for young kids. That's a great example of that. So again, many of you talked about the power of yet and using that. That's a great example of a video you can use. Now for this next one, this one isn't quite as exciting, you guys, but I did really appreciate this video because it models, especially when you're working with older kids, you're explaining maybe what your syllabus is going to be for your class and what your expectations are going to be. This is a video of a college professor who's laying out her expectations for the class. And what I want you to do is I want you to be listening for language, words and phrases that she uses to demonstrate a growth mindset for her students that are going to be taking her class. And what you can do is as we are going through this video, you can be typing in the chat box as we go, but really listen carefully to the language that she's selecting to use and how intentional she is in setting up the culture of her class and developing a growth mindset.
My name is Jamie Peterson. I'm an associate professor at St. Catherine University. And for this mini teaching demonstration, my audience will be students at St. Catherine University. They are psychology students and they are undergraduates who are primarily women. So this semester, I hope to create significant learning experiences with all of you. And I believe that significant learning experiences cannot occur in a vacuum. And so they occur in context, and I want them to occur in your context. So when we're learning in the classroom, when I'm presenting you with a theory, a concept, or a research study, I want you to be thinking about your life, your world, and bring that into the classroom. So that means I want you to think about, does this theory match with my experience? Does this concept fit with what I've experienced at work? Does this research study match with what I've experienced in my home life? So I want you to be thinking about that in the classroom. And then once you leave the classroom, I want you to take the classroom with you. So when you're at work, I want you to ask yourself, does this theory apply here? Or does this research study apply to my social engagements? How does this concept match up with my family experience? So in that way, by bringing your life into the classroom and by taking the classroom out into the world, you're going to have a more meaningful, more significant learning experience, and that will last you much longer than if you try to learn in the vacuum of a classroom. So my expectations for students are first to claim your education. So St. Catherine students have all read Adrienne Rich's essay on claiming your education, so you're hopefully familiar with that kind of language. I want you to claim your education and make it your own. I want you to make it count. I want you to make every class count, and I really want you to own your education. That's my first expectation. Second, I expect you to think of all of the challenges I'm going to present you this semester as opportunities to learn. Challenges to learn more about yourself, to learn more about the material, to learn more about how you learn. So I hope that you will see challenges as opportunities to learn. And as we're taking on those challenges, as you're learning, you're going to make mistakes, and that's a completely normal part of being human and a completely normal part to learning. So I hope that you will take on these mistakes as helpful feedback and try to learn from them. I will make mistakes, you will make mistakes. We will all be making mistakes as we learn this semester. And then in claiming your education, I want you to engage fully. I want you to be critical. I want you to ask questions. I want you to fully engage. You cannot really learn if you aren't engaging fully and asking some great critical questions along the way. Finally, I want you to be kind this semester. Be kind to your peers, support them as they're learning and making mistakes, and they in turn will support you as you learn and make mistakes. Be kind with me. I have your best intentions in mind, and please be kind with me, and I will in turn be kind with you as we are both learning and both making mistakes along the way. Finally, be kind to yourself. Give yourself a nice little margin of error. You're going to make mistakes. Get comfortable with making mistakes, and don't be too hard on yourself. Be kind to yourself this semester as well. So then what can you expect from me? You can expect a lot from me, but first you can expect respect. I will create a respectful classroom environment. I will treat you with respect. I will expect all of your classmates to treat one another respectfully. Second, you can expect flexibility. You can expect me to be flexible as we go through the semester and create some significant learning experiences. Third, you can expect that I will not lecture every day. Instead, we will engage in all of these things I have up on the screen. I will do mini lectures, so I will not lecture for more than 20 minutes, and hopefully I'll lecture for much less than 20 minutes at a stretch. You can expect to collaborate with your peers, engage in discussions. You can expect to do some in-class writing, some out-of-class writing, in-class and outside of class activities. We're going to do a lot, so I want you to come to class ready to engage with me and ready to engage with your peers. So that is what you can expect from me this semester. That is what I'm going to expect from you, and that is how I hope that we will learn together this semester and create some significant learning experiences.
Okay. Thank you guys for writing in the text box. There is a lot that she said in there, significant learning experiences, thinking about your experiences, taking the classroom with you, claiming your education. I love that one. Learning from mistakes, being critical, asking questions. Comfortable making mistakes, respect, flexibility, collaboration, engaging in discussion with peers, and learning together. All of those set the tone for having a growth mindset in the class as they are already starting. She's set the tone and she's used the language, and you can tell that's going to be part of her class throughout. So another nice example of how we use language. So now, in addition to focusing, on the language, the way we talk, which is critical throughout all this, what we want to talk about now is shift gears a little bit to tools that you can use, or many of you probably already use as well, to support a growth mindset. So when students are not accomplishing schoolwork, it can be a challenge for teachers to identify really what the problem is beyond seeing the student is not trying or appearing unmotivated. So really having some tools that are going to help them reflect on that and be able to evaluate that. Written rubrics or checklists really counter this by providing simple, standard language with actionable detail. So really it's about converting vague language, things like lack of effort, to very descriptive, tangible, observable language. So lack of effort might be does not submit revisions on assignments. In addition to, once you have a rubric that kids can look at what effort is, it's really about having them use that rubric as a self-assessment tool so that they can reflect on it. So students are encouraged to engage more deeply in understanding what's expected of them as they review a rubric and score their own behavior against it. So developing self-assessment rubrics also forces adults to think in detail. Let me go to the next one. There we go. To think in detail about whether students understand the language that they're using in their classroom around growth mindset. And some teachers create opportunities for students to use these rubrics when an assignment is complete so that they can reflect on how much effort they put into the assignment. So what I want to do now is just share an example of a rubric. I'm going to make this bigger. I don't have a PDF of this, just so you know. This is a picture. This is from one of the tools that they used in the New York study where they were working with middle and high school students on developing growth mindset and the impact that had on achievement. So this would be what a rubric would look like. So what is the measure of effort? First one would be asking questions. What does that look like? Well, on the one end of the spectrum, a 1, you didn't ask questions to make connections or ask for help. All the way to a 4 on the other end of the spectrum, where you ask specific questions to make connections and push your thinking, and you ask for help as needed. So it helps kids gauge where they're along that continuum. What is perseverance? Going from you didn't stick with a task when you had difficulty and you did not ask for support, all the way to you kept trying when the task was hard and you had stamina to work until the task was completed, even though it was hard. The third one is seeking and applying feedback. So you weren't able to accept feedback and didn't apply it, didn't want to hear any of that stuff, all the way to you frequently sought feedback during the task and applied it confidently, thoroughly, and thoughtfully, and you asked for help up until you completed that task. And then finally, going beyond the minimum requirements. So again, completing less than the minimum requirements all the way to challenging yourself by really extending far beyond those requirements on the task. Those are all examples of a rubric that could be used as a self-assessment rubric for students that they could do. So let me move to the next one. The other thing that in addition to the rubric is conference protocol. So really setting aside time that 5 minutes to 3 to 5 minutes where you have scheduled conferences with students where you can reflect on how the student is doing, reflect on the effort, reflect on whether there needs to be some strategies. You can use the tools for them to kind of reflect on how they're doing and use that more as a conferencing with students, but be more intentional with that. And then there's goal setting worksheets. So a third strategy would be when you are conferencing with students is for students to start setting those goals for themselves. Again, I just finished with student-led conferences with my middle schooler, and throughout the whole time he was setting, both my kids were setting goals about what they were going to work on over the next quarter and really trying to explicitly state how they were going to achieve those goals. It's a wonderful way to help build that growth mindset in students. So, and I know all of you probably have different examples of those. Here's one example of a goal setting for younger kids, and where they might be reflecting on their class goal, but then also setting personal goals. So you'll have the goal, how they did, a time for them to reflect on how they did in writing, rating how they were, their progress towards that goal, as well as next steps, changes that they might make to that goal. And then you have ones that you can use for older kids where you have the ability to set a goal, why you chose the goal, how you're going to achieve the goal, like I just said happened with my students or my children. And then a time to come back and review this. And this is a useful tool that really helps kids develop that growth mindset and setting those next steps. And then finally, exit tickets are another strategy that you can use with students to really help them develop that growth mindset. The last 5 minutes of each class period or the day can be a valuable opportunity that students can be reminded of growth mindset language. So simple questions about the learning process, they push reflection and they remind students to reflect on the challenges instead of avoiding them. So in schools, that they might value making mistakes and they really encourage that as a learning process. Their exit ticket might say, how do you feel about the mistakes you made today? Or how much effort did you put in today? How much effort do you want me to put in as your teacher? So really reflecting on these types of questions and the language around growth mindset. Oh, will habits of mind be discussed? That would be a great thing for us to do next session, is to bring that in as we're diving into this more. So thank you for that suggestion. I think that would be a really good next step. And then finally, there's a couple more things that I want to share, and then I want to wrap it up because I want to get some time for the end for us to talk about the final project. But when you are teaching, really, the strategies and tools that you're using in the classroom are helping develop growth mindsets in students. So mini lessons, diagrams, mnemonic devices that outline strategies that are going to help students in the challenging work that they're provided. So for example, a diagram that names the steps in the revision process, or a mini lesson that gives students the opportunity to discuss how they tackled a difficult writing assignment. Those are strategies that you're using within your lessons that are infused into your instruction that are helping students develop that growth mindset and helping them use that language. The other thing is challenging questions. And again, this comes back to our Common Core as well as the Danielson instructional framework. In some cases, teachers scaffold the opportunity to take on challenges by really carefully giving students increasingly challenging tasks. They give them questions and they allow for more challenging options in assignments and tests. So this can be thought of as a method of differentiation around growth mindset, and basically in which you offer students the option to differentiate on their own by tackling more challenging questions and more challenging tasks. Teachers encourage students to apply specific strategies learned in class to the challenge task, and especially when they face with content that's really unfamiliar, by having them expand on that, annotating a question in order to determine what it's asking, creating a visual to accompany a task to help realize that process of arriving at a solution are all ways to extend it. Right now, what I want to do is have you kind of come up with, if you could type in the chat box, some other tools that you use during instruction to help push and challenge students as they're developing that growth mindset. A few people typing. Asking more extending questions. Tell me more. How did you do that? What would happen if? Portfolio feedback forms. That's fantastic. That's a great way. Encouraging kids to keep trying. So yeah, in a math lesson that takes a lot of effort, letting them know up front that it's going to take that effort. Self-reflection sheets. Explaining your thinking. So a lot of really good examples of how you could build on these strategies and tools to develop a growth mindset. Now, kind of in closing to wrap up this part, what we've talked about today in developing growth mindset in students are really, I have two things on here, but I really should have three things. One, it's the language that we use. Really training ourselves to use different sentence stems and sometimes more consistently. That's a huge step number one. The second one is direct instruction on growth mindset. So these are lessons you could do to explicitly teach kids how the brain grows and is malleable, what the difference is between fixed and growth mindset. What I have right there is an example from the Khan Academy, are specific lessons that you can do, and there's a whole bunch of other materials that you could order or get free online to explicitly teach those growth mindset. And then the third area is really infusion of growth mindset into instruction by examples like we've talked about, by having kids self-assess their effort, conferencing, goal setting, really pushing them and having more challenging tasks, and praising effort over language, or over in our language over whether they're getting it right or not, are all ways that you're infusing growth mindset day to day over during your instruction. So to wrap up this part, we're going to end early tonight because with the assignment for tonight, I have a really good article from the New York Times, but it's 22 pages long, but let me tell you, it's an easy read. So that's why we're going to end early, so you have some time to read it. But the article is Who Gets to Graduate? And I like this article because it pushes us out of the K-12 realm and really looks at the, as kids go into college, the impact of growth mindset and fixed mindset has on outcomes for students, and the whole idea of equity in education. So what I want you to do for the next, for this last assignment, and actually this is the last assignment before our final project because we won't have an assignment after the next webinar, is to read this article. It's posted on the Moodle, Who Gets to Graduate, and then again write a one-paragraph response addressing the following questions. What connections do you see between the article and developing growth mindsets to achieve equity in education in the Anchorage School District? You're going to read about what one college, one university did to really create this equity and develop growth mindsets in its college students. And then respond to one other person's response. This is set up in the discussion board. John will have it. If you go under October 26th, you'll find the assignment and you can do that. And that will be due by November 30th. I want to say that I really appreciate everyone putting in responding to the prompts and your thoughtful responses, and then your responses to each other. That really helps us build that community of learners, even though we're all virtual, and really helps us connect to each other and learn from each other. So this will be our assignment number 3, and you'll find that on the Moodle. Then I also want to take a moment to go over the final project that's due on December 14th. Oh, and just going back, just as a quick reminder, remember we changed our last class from December to November 30th, and if you can't make it, remember we record this, so you will have the opportunity to watch the recorded version if you can't make this class. So don't worry about that. So let's go back to the final project. This is laid out in the Moodle, so you have a PDF that you can download that gives you more information. But basically there are 3 components to the project. We wanted you to do something over the second quarter that helps you apply your understanding about growth mindset for yourself and in your role in your job. So many of you have different roles. Some of you are classroom teachers, some of you are special education teachers, ELL tutors, counselors, psychologists, nurses. We all have very different roles in the district, but we all work with other people. That's our common thread. So what I want you to do is think about, in your role within the district, what is something that you can do to develop growth mindset and apply it. So the first component is application. So develop and implement a growth mindset project applicable to your job as an educator. So this could be a class lesson, that direct instruction part that you do with students. It could be staff professional development that you do. It could be a small group social skills task or lesson. It could be a parent presentation. It could be not only a direct instruction lesson about growth mindset, it could be a math lesson where you've embedded it, infused it with the language that you're using, and you can show this in a lesson plan. Something that is showing how you're applying what you're learning. Then writing a reflection paper once you've implemented it, describing what you did, when you implemented it, how it went, and again, this reflection piece, how you could make it even better next time. You know, did it go really well and you knocked it out of the park? You thought it was going to go well, but kids didn't really connect to it. Really reflecting on how that went and how it could go better. And then finally, with that reflection paper, turning in some sort of product that reflects the work. So this could be a lesson plan, it could be a PowerPoint, PowerPoint with facilitator notes that other people can pick up and use with maybe their staff. A student project. I modeled the one where we had that stopgap animation that one class did around the most magnificent thing. Could be something like that. You know, it could be a parent night where you put together a presentation. Some sort of product that goes with your reflection. And again, the main goal here is for you to apply what you learn. So it's something that you're going to be able to take away for this class, some applicable learning, not just a reading research article and responding to that. So that is what we're doing for a 1 credit class. I don't want you to be doing this doesn't have to be a dissertation, guys. This could be something that you're going to be doing anyways with students and how you're applying it. It shouldn't be a whole lot. And this is a 1 credit class. They're according to UAA graduate level classes, there's 15 contact hours, 8 of which were at in-service, and then we've scheduled 4 2-hour webinars, which we haven't done the full 2 hours. And there's supposed to be an additional 15 hours or additional 30 hours, I think, outside of class. So I'm trying not to make this a lot of work for you, but more applicable about what you're going to do. So if you have some concerns, please contact me and we can talk about this. But really following the procedures around the criteria around UAA graduate level credits and what we're supposed to do. So again, you have the whole second quarter to do this. Really just try and make it something that you're going to be doing within your own building anyways. Can you do a final project or group if you're presenting as staff? Absolutely. If you're presenting as a staff and you're doing this with a school team, that's a great way to do it. Again, the goal is not just to do busy work, but it's to apply what you've learned in your everyday work. So that's what that is going to be. So let me, if you pull up the syllabus too, let me pull that up. It will tell you what the requirements are as far as in-class work and stuff. So let me pull that up. It requires 15, for a class at this level, it requires 15 contact hours and approximately 30 hours of engaged learning outside of class. So that's the criteria for the UAA credit. So that's in the syllabus that's on the Moodle too. So, and if you want the project details PDF, it's at the bottom of the files for this week, or you can get it on the Moodle. Absolutely, if you are working within a grade level team on a unit or something, work together on it. The goal is to have information that you can use and you can apply. The other thing is when you read the guidance on the project details, it will show you how to post it. And the goal is for us to have a learning community where you can share what you've done and other people can utilize what other people have done. So as we post it on the Moodle, people can see and get ideas from each other because you guys are doing amazing things around growth mindset and we can continue to learn from each other. And if you do a project together, just put all your names on it, and that works just fine. So if you want to stay on, you can stay on, and I can answer more questions. Otherwise, we are done for tonight so that you guys can go do, the reading or whatever you need to do. Again, today's assignment is going to be the last assignment other than the final project. So I appreciate your time tonight, and have a great evening. I'm going to stay on for a while and answer any other questions people have. Okay, I'm going to have John, this is the assignment, but it's also on the Moodle. So the article you can download off the Moodle and scan it, and then just write a one-paragraph response to that. And John's going to show you where it is on the Moodle so that you can see that.
Grabbed the wrong one. Hold on a second. I just got to pull that one over. Is it showing up now? The Moodle?
A little bit bigger if you can. Can you, let me see. I can do it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, I'm going to change my view to participant view. Okay. So, at this point, I think everybody can see our Moodle site, and you'll notice that down in today's area, October 26th, Student Growth Mindset, we have a homework assignment number 3 area, and when you click on that, you can see 2 things. Number 1, you can see the PDF that Jenny's asking people to read in advance. And number 2, you can see the instructions and where to reply. You'll notice the reply button is very small in the lower right of the prompt area, but that's all you need when you're ready to reply. When you've read the article and you're ready to put your one-paragraph response in there, you just click on the reply button, and again, you have the opportunity to change the subject line to something focused, or you can leave it blank. You'll insert into the message body and type your paragraph or 2 there, and when you're done, you will post to forum down at the bottom there. It'll let you know if you're successful. Your reply will appear right under the threaded conversation. If you need to go back and change it, you can edit it, or if for some reason you don't get around to changing it quickly and you find that it is not editable anymore, you can copy it, what you do have, delete what you do have, and then paste it again. So there's multiple ways to skin that cat. Bottom line, though, is that's all you have to do to access this week's assignment. Going to the final project area, when you want to work on that area, that'll be down here. And that video that we used before about posting, how to upload an assignment in a forum, I'm going to duplicate that and put it down there as well. So if you don't remember how to upload an assignment to a forum, it'll be right down here by where the final projects will go. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can either ask now, or if you find you have a question later on, just email me anytime. So I think that's what I have, unless there's something else.
Thank you, John.
Okay.